Hello guys, this is Dusty Gamer and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this series we're going to be time travelling back to the late 80s, early 90s and reviewing those retro games. I'll be giving you my honest opinion detail by detail of what I thought about the game and how it rates on my Dusty rater scale. So without further ado, let's get on with that video. In today's episode we're going to be looking at a game called Blades of Vengeance, which is a 2D platform which was released in 1993 by Electronic Arts. The overall concept of the story was very simplistic, which you would expect from any given platform title. So guys, the game really had that feel of a medieval setting. It had the monsters, the magic and the swords. The story all began with a dark lady called Monax, who brought down the kingdom using a powerful magic and army of monsters. They'd driven out all those who followed that light of goodness from the kingdom, so there was no one there that was left to defeat her. So what could they do with these dark times ahead? Well, the master summoned 3 adventurers, the huntress, the warrior and the wizard. So with these 3 adventurers, the light of the land may still be returned, and it was their job to set out on this quest and defeat that dark lady once and for all. So in terms of attacks, the huntress had an average attack with a sword, better range than the barbarian but lacked in strength, whereas compared to the wizard, her attacks are stronger but risk being attacked as she is closer to the enemy. The barbarian definitely had the strongest attacks, however the range was really poor compared to the wizard and less of a reach than the huntress. The wizard is definitely the weakest, but the advantage is there is less risk of being hit as his attack are ranged attacks. So once you do progress in the game and you reach level 4, you do have the ability to upgrade your armor and weapon. This improves both the defense and the attack ability, which in a way changes your character. For example, the huntress gains a great piece of armor on her body and a ranged weapon, which is the crossbow. The barbarian gets a great armor piece and an extended range on his weapon by using the mace. And the wizard's attack gets stronger with a big energy ball and awesome white robes. And wait, is the wizard wearing fishnets? So guys, the fighting is where I really started to love the game. It's when I figured out the mechanics and that awesome block button. The attack consisted of a normal standing swing, a downward slash, a kneeling swing and the block. It did take me a while to figure the block button out and how to use it correctly, but it definitely helped me against those fast enemies with double swings. So, the levels themselves, they generally take a Sonic the Hedgehog approach of 3 stages and a boss battle. However, mid-game they tend to shake things up and increase the amount of stages, not to mention the very long level 6, which turns out to be a really big stage. You choose one of the adventurers, and if you're lucky enough to have a friend, it is 2-player, so the 2 of you can save the kingdom together. So you do visit a number of places that are very different, however you do find yourself in the castle quite a bit. The game is worth getting up to the forest level alone, just from an aesthetic point of view. Throughout the levels, it isn't always one way. There are places to veer off to that contain hidden chests and keys. They usually do have a tougher enemy guarding them though. This just makes the game more of an adventure in my opinion. The later you do get in the game, the more the levels start to feel like an actual labyrinth, with needing to find keys to unlock the next part of the level. The game definitely has an impressive host of items to help you with your journey and defeating those enemies. Healing potions, force fields, invisibility, poison gas immunity, which was needed for a level, scrolls to increase your strength and transform enemies. But my 2 favourites were definitely the meter string, which turns enemies into money, and the blast ones, which destroys all enemies that are on your screen. Talking of money, which translates to gold or silver in game, the game does present you with the opportunity to go to the shop at the end of each stage. This is where you can spend your money on upgrades, more lives and more items, which definitely help prepare you for the next stage. So keep well stocked up for them goblins, skeletons and that poison gas. Unfortunately, there was nothing for being trapped in a pit of lava or a poison swamp. Moving on to the boss battles. After the first 2 bosses, I wasn't too impressed as the moves became really predictable. For all the other bosses, I did find were quite challenging. They usually had 2 or 3 phases, switching their move patterns around. This made the fight a lot more challenging because you couldn't just learn the one move pattern. It was a lot more unpredictable. Level 7, which was in the forest, the Stonehead, he had a lot of moves and it wasn't the easiest of bosses, so I'd definitely put him at the top of the list for the most challenging. But I did really like the detail that went into the bosses, especially Manox at the end. One really last cool feature, guys, that they included on the game was the ability to use your directional pad on the pause menu, just to see if any traps are lurking below any drops that you can't necessarily see. The graphics, guys, in this game were really effective, especially the more you progress in the game. Not only do those monsters have fine detail, but the way they die, which made it somewhat realistic with those spurts of blood. Extra detail was put into those bosses. It made them really intimidating, like you're not in for an easy ride when you face them. As a side-scrolling platform, it was expected to have a backdrop to the layer you walk upon, but Blades of Vengeance definitely detailed those backdrops. It gave you almost that feel of where you really are. And look at the volcano, this was real standout for me for a backdrop. On level 7, which was the forest, this had both a backdrop and a layer in front of your platform, which I think gave the level a real big dynamic change just before you go into face that final boss on level 8. So guys, the music in Blades of Vengeance, it was really atmospheric. The majority of the music was very upbeat rock, but didn't overshadow the sound effects. One particular moment which you can hear in this clip was getting onto level 6. The music really made you feel like you were a real hero, edging closer to the end of that all-important quest. I felt the sound effects of sword swinging, hitting an enemy were just as you expect them to be. However, enemy growls were not the most pleasant. But the game actually did do everything it intended to do in terms of effects and music. Nothing really stood out and nothing was majorly poor. To summarise, guys, Blades of Vengeance had it all: the monsters, the variety of combat with different characters, and the challenging bosses. I particularly enjoyed the latter end of the game, where the common enemy, the knight, was somewhat of a challenge himself to kill. The levels themselves are absolutely stunning to look at, and has a great variety to them as you played, and I enjoyed just the freedom of just veering off to find that extra bit of loot. The shop at the end of each stage was definitely an added touch to the game. Without this, I would have struggled to actually beat the game. One of the major things though I was disappointed about was not having that ability to save the game or even have a password, because death was something that occurred one too many times. It was frustrating finding yourself on a level 7 only to get stuck in a poison swamp and no way of getting out, so at least having a password would have been nice to carry on from the start of that level. Apart from that, guys, it was everything I would have asked for with a side-scrolling platform, and to say it was a first time play, I would have put it up there as one of the great retro games I've ever played. But would I play this again? 100%, but give or take a few months because the frustration was too much at times. So guys, how does this rate on my Dusty scale? It's out of 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I gave it a 3 for the story based on you knew what was going on, but it was very simplistic, just like any other quest game. The gameplay, I gave a 5. I loved the combat and the variety of how you do it throughout the game, plus that block button was absolutely great. Difficulty, I gave a 4. The boss battles definitely bumped this up massively, as it's where I died most, but generally the level play was quite easy. Graphics, I gave a 4. The backgrounds were absolutely stunning to look at, and how those enemies died with the blood spurts made this stand out. And I gave 4 for the sound based on it done everything it was supposed to. The music was well balanced out with the sound effects, nothing bursting that eardrum of yours. So overall, guys, I'm giving this game on the Dusty rater scale 4 control pads. I think it was a very good game. It was an awesome game to play. As I said, the only letdown was having no save points or no passwords, but other than that, it was absolutely flawless and it ticked a lot of boxes in what I'd expect from a classic retro game. I hope you've enjoyed this video and the review. Like always, if you enjoyed the video, drop me a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please subscribe. And until next time, thank you very much. I've been Dusty Gamer, signing out.